Hi, Sid here from Border Archery. I'd like to do a little video explaining our ILF limb models, explaining roughly how we got here and what it would mean to you, the archer, when choosing a limb. First off, back in 1999 when we first applied 45° carbon to a limb, we discovered that the recurve size was limited by the torsional rigidity of the limb. The torsional rigidity then moved on to torsional stability, which is an enhanced concept, and it's allowed us to explore the HEX limb program, which has led us down even deeper paths in terms of limb development. Now, we don't think there's a company out there that's done the levels of research and development that we've done. I can say that with fairly hefty confidence, because we pioneered the 45° carbon, we pioneered the recurve size concept in terms of the 45° carbon, and we coined the term the super recurve. Okay, so I've done a video on what is a super recurve. If it's torsionally unstable, but still kind of shoots or even doesn't even hold a string, then it needs the torsional stability, in which case then it becomes a super recurve at that point. So here we have our limb models. Now, our limb models are quite simple in terms of their naming. So on a scale of 1 to 10 of smoothness, 1 being very conventional, the stuff, the mainstream brands, that would be your 1, that would be about 2.1 pounds gained. And then when you go right up to where we've been with our development, where you've actually got a physical let off in a single string recurve, that single string let off becomes a serious problem because you can't time your cams. So with our bolt down risers, we get to control the riser deflex, we get to control the limb exit angles, we get to control a lot. Therefore we can optimize the draw force curve for the draw lengths for each of the limb models, whereas we don't get to do that with ILF because we can't really control what you guys are putting them on or what bolt positions you put them at. We've got the 9, which is almost let off at the 10 end of the scale, and we've also got a 1.5, which is close to the 1, which is close to a conventional limb. So here we've got the very conventional, and here we've got the let off. Okay, these are 4 distinctly different smoothness levels, tangibly, empirically measurable smoothness levels, not the difference between a foam core and a wood core, because there isn't one. Okay, we can say this because we do draw force curves between our wood core variants and the hyperflex variants, and there's no difference. Now, what you do get a difference is you'll get a difference in noise level because of the hardness of the material. You get more of a zing out of one than the other. Again, that doesn't really matter because string silencers take all that away. What we have found is that between the hyperflex and the wood core, because of the reduced density of the hyperflex, you've got about a 2 feet per second speed gain. The 2 feet per second equates to about 1 pound in bow weight. Okay, that's on your average experience of information that's available in the public. Okay, so what you will notice is as you go smoother and smoother and smoother, you end up with higher and higher stored energy levels. Okay, the monolithic design limbs, they come in somewhere around about a 2 on our scale, because it's not 2.1 pounds gained, it's closer to 1.92 pounds. They're classed as smooth limbs. That's roughly where our CV2 pips into the mark. The CV2 is our moderate super recurve. Okay, much more conventional would be the 1.5, which sits very, very, very close to, ever so slightly smoother than the MXT type style limbs from Win and Win. Okay, now the difference between them all in terms of torsional stability is the 1.5 is our most torsionally stable limb, sorry, torsionally rigid limb, and that is the more moderate recurve at the same time. So it sits a little bit different in our lineup. So as you can see here, you've got the various heights of recurve, depths of recurve. So looking at the depths of recurve, we need to have a look at the 1.5. The 1.5 we would pitch at indoor, we would pitch it at string walking, we'd pitch it at target recurve archers, very experienced target recurve archers, very ingrained in their shot cycle, that are not happy changing the smoothness level because it makes them feel a little bit weird as to where they are in their clicker. If you get used to the smoother end, then that whole thing goes away, but if you don't want that culture shock, then the 1.5 is the limb for you. Now, conventionally, a top-end, well-designed recurve would store about 0.92 foot-pounds of energy per pound held on the fingers. So if we go to 100 pounds, that would be equivalent to 92 foot-pounds of energy. The 1.5 stores about 0.94, just that little bit more. Okay, so it's not a huge amount, it's not crazy, because the monolithic style limbs that are very similar to the CV2, they store about 0.9697, so 0.91, 94, 967. Okay, so that's what you've got with the CV2 limb. Okay, now if you know the monolithic limbs and you're happy with them, then the CV2 is the limb for you, because you'll know exactly where you're at with them. They're a very high performance limb. As with all of our limbs, there's absolutely no glass fibre in them at all. There's not a stitch of fiberglass in them, and that is where the limb tip mass comes from. If you try doing that with a glass limb, you will feel the effort to do it on your hand. The lighter it is out here, the quicker it is to whip backwards and forwards, the less hand shock and the faster limb response you'll get in terms of bow performance. Okay, so that's what happens with the limbs there. So the CV2 would be the limb that would fit a lot of field archers, for example, that want a fairly conventional draw, and they want a smoother draw cycle on a conventional limb, but without going too far. Okay, so what you'll notice between the CV1.5 and the CV2 is there's a difference in the recurve shapes. All right, but you'll see it mostly when you put them on the table. There's a height difference between them. All right. So, moving on to, by the way, it's profile, width and depth and taper, etc. The only things that change the smoothness, not the materials. All right. Looking at the CV5, here we've got a wood core version, not that it really matters. The CV5 is a very, very talented limb. It did exceptionally well in Slovenia for 2024. It picked up by far the bulk of the podium places. My calculation was it was just over 50% of all podium places available to trad class. Okay, so a very competent limb, very, very smooth. It, rather than having 2 pounds per inch or anywhere near 2 pounds, it's closer to 1. So that's why it sits with a 5. It sits halfway between 1 and 10. So it's got a number of 5. So the smoothness is halfway between let off and a conventional bow. Now, the stored energy in this limb is exceptional in comparison to anything else in the conventional class, as in it stores about 1.1 foot-pounds of energy. So conventionally you'd have 92 foot-pounds for 100 pounds at 28. Then we go up to the CV2, which has had about 97 foot-pounds, not 92. This goes up to 110 foot-pounds of energy for 100 pounds in your fingers, and that's where it really starts to get its performance from. The vertical stability is very good, the torsional stability is very good, and it's proven to be a very potent limb at the top end. Now, please note, these guys are putting a lot of arrows through their bows, otherwise they wouldn't be top-end archers. Alright? So, as I say, you wouldn't get over 50% of the podium places at world level field trad class if it was an unreliable limb. Yeah? You tell me. Right? Then we have our CV9. The CV9 is very close to having let off. It is a large hook super recurve. It stores 117 1.17 foot-pounds of energy per pound held, or 117 foot-pounds of energy for 100 pounds at 28. It has a smoothness, because it's a 9, it's very, very close to being at let-off. It gains about 0.3 pounds per inch when the draw weights are the same as the previous limbs. Now, this limb really does prefer a shorter riser. It does pack a punch. It's got a lot of energy in it, and again, it's got the same mass, the same dynamic mass as the 1.5. Right? They're both very, very similar limbs. Some of the advantages that the field shooters and the hunters like is that it generates quite a small, short, diddy bow because it's predominantly hooked over. The limbs will sit about the tips will sit about 5 inches forward than a conventional limb, which is closer to, it's going to be sub 2 inches. Okay, if you've watched my previous videos, you'll see what I'm saying by that recurve size at bracing height. Now, our bracing heights are really quite simple. Okay, so if you start, say, at half-inch bands, you've got the 9 with 6.5 to 7, 7 to 7.5, 7.5 to 8, 8 to 8.5. Okay, so you can choose your bracing height. Now, because the draw weights, because the stored energy changes for the draw weight, then it's not replicating the bow of the higher draw weights, so the grains per pound change. The minimum grains per pound it would recommend change, but the strings don't. We still recommend the same strings, 14 strand of the fast flight, or the 8125 or 652. Those kind of strings, basically an SK75 100% or a Spectra string type. Okay, a lot of information in there, but hopefully it'll help you. Don't overbrace carbon limbs, they don't like it, but as I say, we go from 6.5 to about 8.5 inch of bracing height, depending on what you want. Okay, now the CV1.5 is available from an extra short to an extra long, the same as the 2 and the 5. Now, because the 9 is all recurve, we can't really have an extra short. I mean, this is a long limb, so we can't really have an extra short. We end up with no limb left. Okay, so we don't do the 9 in an extra short, but we do extra longs. We do the full range, which probably gives you the most diverse limb set available for ILF. Right, everything from very conventional all the way up to very unconventional, from indoor target normal shooting all the way through to short riser hunting, packs a punch. But field limb, field target, full target, your choice. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll go and string the bows up and let you see the limb shape at each of the limb styles. Okay. Any comments? Thanks for watching, and stick them below and I'll do my best to answer. CV1.5s. Right. You can see the recurve there. Alright. And yeah. Alright. You can see the limb profile of the 1.5. Here we have the CV2, tighter recurve, bigger recurve. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So again, nice, slim, elegant design. Tapered all the way. Okay. So here we have the CV5. Yeah. The CV5, again, they're all the same kind of profiles, etc. Again, torsional rigidity, it's good. They've all got exceptional vertical stability because we wouldn't let them out otherwise. Okay, so again, yeah, can you see that? No, you can't quite see that, can you? There you go. Yeah, the CV5 is currently our best seller. And last but not least, the big recurve, the 9. The 9 has all the smoothness that we think you'd ever want. So yeah. So you get to there and it just comes back. Alright. Again, yeah, like them all. Vertical stability is superb. Alright. The 9. Now just out of fits and giggles, you see the gap? Yeah. So, not the correct way to string or unstring. Come on, out you come. Alright, all good fun. Okay, so anyway, as I say, thanks for watching.